the night wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, muffling the world outside. I sat on the couch, the soft glow of my phone lighting up the dark room. But then, a sound shattered the silence, a loud crash of glass. My heart raced as I turned toward the noise, and my breath caught in my throat. In that moment, I knew my life was about to change forever. I had been scrolling through photos, a simple act of distraction, when I stumbled upon Gideon's phone lying on the coffee table. My fingers itched to reach for it, curiosity pulling me closer. I had never been one to pry, but something felt off. I picked it up, heart thumping louder than ever. What if I found something? What if I didn't? As I unlocked the screen, my heart sank. The texts were there, glaring back at me like a neon sign of betrayal. Each word pierced my heart deeper, unraveling the perfect life I thought we had built together. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one said. "You make me feel alive," read another. The room spun, and the air turned heavy. How could he do this? My mind flooded with memories of our laughter, our quiet moments. Now they felt tainted, as if someone had thrown paint over a beautiful canvas. Anger bubbled within me, hot and furious. "How could you, Gideon?" I whispered to the empty room, clenching my fists. With every shared moment I recalled, the betrayal burned brighter. I thought of the nights we cuddled under the stars, our whispered dreams filling the cool air. Were those moments real? Or just a facade? I stood up, pacing the room, wrestling with my thoughts. Should I confront him? Demand answers? What if he lies? I muttered, frustration coursing through me. Or maybe I should plan my revenge. The thought sent a thrill of power through me. I could reclaim my strength, make him feel what I felt. But was that the person I wanted to be? A chill ran down my spine as I realized something crucial. I could not be a victim. I had to be the architect of my own fate. I had to take control. No more hiding, I told myself, my voice steady. The betrayal stung, but I could turn that pain into something powerful. I could reclaim my life, my dignity. Suddenly, I felt a spark of determination ignite within me. What would I do? I asked myself, imagining the possibilities. I could confront him, force him to see the damage he'd caused. But was that enough? I wanted him to feel the weight of his choices, to understand the depth of his betrayal. Revenge could be my way to heal, to rise from the ashes of this broken trust. As I stood by the window, staring into the darkness outside, I knew I had to think carefully. Revenge was a double-edged sword. What if I become the villain? I mused. The thought made my stomach twist. But then again, was I not justified? Wouldn't my pain warrant a response? The night dragged on, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I felt like a soldier preparing for battle, every detail of my plan forming in my mind. I would take my time, be strategic. I would not rush. I will show him the consequences of his actions, I promised myself, feeling a surge of power. As I returned to the couch, I glanced at Gideon's phone, the screen still lit up with those damning words. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This was not just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my narrative. I would not let his betrayal define me. I would rise, stronger than ever. My heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement. What would tomorrow bring? Would I confront him, or would I plot my revenge quietly? I glanced at the shattered glass on the floor, a reflection of my broken trust. This is only the beginning, I whispered to myself, a fierce resolve filling my heart. No more playing the victim. I was ready to take control of my destiny. The sun had barely risen when I sat at the kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee in front of me. My mind raced with thoughts of revenge, each one more elaborate than the last. I felt like a puppet master, ready to pull the strings and make my moves. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. First, I needed to find out more about Lila. Who was she? What did she think of Gideon? I pulled out my phone and started researching her. Her social media profiles revealed a happy life filled with friends and laughter. A part of me felt a pang of guilt, knowing she had no idea she was part of my dark plan. Why do I feel sorry for her? I whispered to myself, shaking my head. This was not about her. It was about Gideon and the betrayal I had suffered. My plan began to take shape. I would approach Lila as if I were a friend. I could plant seeds of doubt and watch as she slowly began to question Gideon's loyalty. It felt cold, but I needed to do it. I picked up a pen and paper, jotting down my thoughts. Step 1. Approach Lila, I wrote. Step 2. Be friendly, but drop hints about Gideon. It sounded simple enough, but I knew it would be emotionally complex. I recalled our wedding day, filled with joy and love. I could still hear the laughter, feel the warmth of the sun on my face. How could it have come to this? Eloise, are you okay? My friend Sarah's voice broke through my memories. She stood at the door, concern etched on her face. You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a smile, trying to mask my turmoil. I'm fine, just thinking about work, I lied. Sarah raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Are you sure? You know you can talk to me. I know, I just need some time, I replied, a hint of frustration creeping into my voice. I didn't want to burden her with my pain. As she left, I returned to my planning. I couldn't shake the thought of Gideon's charming smile, the way he always knew how to make me feel special. But now, that charm felt like a weapon he had used against me. I had to dismantle the perfect image he had built, piece by piece. Step 3. Gather evidence, I wrote. I needed to confront him with proof. The thought of seeing him again made my stomach twist. Would he look guilty? Would he feign innocence? The anger bubbled up inside me, but I pushed it down. I couldn't let emotion control me. I remembered the last time we had dinner together. He had laughed, telling me a joke that I had found so funny. You always know how to make me smile, I had said, feeling content. Now that laughter felt like a stab to my heart. How could I have been so blind? Maybe I should just confront him, I muttered, feeling the weight of my decision. But then I thought of Lila again. Could I ruin her life too? I knew she was innocent in all of this, but the betrayal felt so deep that I couldn't help but feel rage toward her as well. Eloise, don't be the villain, I scolded myself. You're better than this. But the thought of revenge was intoxicating, a sweet poison I couldn't resist. I had to remind myself that I was the one who had been wronged. Suddenly my phone buzzed with a message. It was a notification from Lila's post, showcasing her latest adventure with Gideon. My heart raced as I opened it. The two of them looked so happy, arms around each other, smiles wide. The sight ignited the fire within me again. Step 4. Use their happiness against them, I wrote, my determination solidifying. I would not let this go unanswered. I would make sure Gideon felt the weight of his choices. I looked at the mirror, my reflection staring back at me, and I whispered, "This is your moment, Eloise. You are not a victim. You are the architect of your own fate." With that, I felt a surge of strength. I would follow through with my plan, no matter how cold-hearted it seemed. I would reclaim my power and finally take control of my life. The pieces were falling into place, and I was ready to set my plan into motion. The air was thick with tension as I sat across from Lila in the small cafe downtown. I had planned this meeting down to the last detail. My heart raced as I smiled at her, trying to project warmth and friendship. But inside, I felt like a storm was brewing. She had no idea that I knew the truth about her and Gideon. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my purpose. "Lila, it's so nice to finally meet you," I said, my voice smooth and inviting. "Gideon talks about you often." Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and she leaned in closer. "Really? That's sweet of him. I feel like I've known you forever through his stories. I fought back the urge to roll my eyes. Yes, he really cares about you. I paused, letting my words sink in. But sometimes, I wonder how well we really know our partners. Lila's smile faltered for a brief moment, and I seized the opportunity. Have you ever felt uncertain about someone? Like there's something they're not telling you? She looked down at her coffee, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup. I guess everyone has secrets, but I trust Gideon. He's always been honest with me. Honest? I echoed, allowing a hint of doubt to creep into my tone. Are you sure about that? I've seen the way he can charm people. It's easy to overlook things when you're caught up in that. Lila frowned, her brow furrowing. What do you mean? I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. I just think it's important to be aware. Sometimes, what seems perfect on the surface hides a lot of cracks underneath. Her eyes widened slightly, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as I planted the seeds of doubt. You know, he's always been a bit of a flirt. I mean, he's charming, right? Lila's lips pressed into a thin line. I've never thought of him that way. He's always been committed to me. Maybe, I said, feigning innocence. But people can change. I learned that the hard way. The conversation hung heavy in the air, and I could see the uncertainty brewing in her eyes. Part of me felt guilty for leading her down this path, but another part reveled in the power I was starting to feel. I had spent too long feeling like a victim. Now I was the one pulling the strings. Later that day, I found myself staring at Gideon across the dining table. He was completely oblivious. His face lit up with a smile as he recounted a funny story from work. But I could see the cracks starting to show in his perfect facade. I felt a surge of anger, mixed with a sense of control. Gideon, I interrupted, my voice steady. Can we talk about something serious? He looked at me, surprise flickering in his eyes. Sure. What's on your mind? I searched for the right words, feeling the weight of the moment. I've been thinking a lot about trust and relationships lately. It's vital to be honest with each other, don't you think? His expression shifted, confusion clouding his features. Of course. Why do you ask? I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I wouldn't want any secrets to come between us. It's important that we're open about everything. He chuckled nervously, shaking his head. You know me better than that. I have nothing to hide. Really? I pressed, keeping my voice calm, though my heart raced. Because sometimes I wonder if that's true. He looked at me, his eyes narrowing slightly. What do you mean? It's just, I've heard things, seen things that made me question if everything is as it seems. Can you honestly say you've been completely faithful to me? His face paled, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Fear, perhaps. Eloise, what are you implying? I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm saying that it's easy to hide behind a smile, Gideon, but the truth always comes out. The tension hung between us like a thick fog, heavy and suffocating. I could feel the anger and hurt bubbling within me, but I held it back. This confrontation was about more than just revenge. It was about reclaiming my power. As I looked into his eyes, I realized that I was not just confronting him. I was confronting my own pain, my own betrayal. I needed to face the truth, even if it meant tearing down the life we built together. And in that moment, I felt a spark of strength igniting within me, ready to take the next step in my journey. As I moved forward with my plan, I began to notice the cracks in Gideon and Lila's relationship. Each moment I spent watching them felt like peeling back layers of a carefully constructed facade. It was strange. I had always seen their bond as perfect, but now I could see how fragile it truly was. I wondered if I was becoming too involved in this twisted game, yet I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. One evening, I decided to meet Lila for coffee. I wanted to get closer to her, to see how she reacted to Gideon's absence. As I sat across from her in the small cafe, I felt a twinge of guilt mixed with my anger. Lila looked so bright and innocent, sipping her latte with a smile, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. "Eloise, it's so nice to finally meet you," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I forced a smile, trying to keep my tone light. "Yes, it's great to meet you too, Lila. I've heard so much about you." "What did Gideon say?" she asked, leaning in closer, eager for my response. I took a deep breath, carefully choosing my words. "He said you're really talented. He admires your work." "Really? That means a lot coming from him," she replied, her cheeks flushing with pride. Inside, I felt a pang of sadness. I remembered how Gideon used to look at me that way. His charm had captivated me once, and now I was sitting across from the woman who had taken my place. "You know," I started slowly, "sometimes people can be different with different people. It's easy to overlook things when you're in love." Lila's smile faltered for a moment. "What do you mean?" I felt a rush of guilt as I continued. "I just think it's important to trust your instincts. If something feels off, it might be worth considering." She looked down at her cup, her expression shifting from joy to confusion. "You think Gideon is hiding something?" I shrugged, maintaining my outward calm. I wouldn't want to imply anything. But sometimes, relationships aren't what they seem. As I left the cafe, I felt both victorious and troubled. I had planted a seed of doubt in Lila's mind, but I also saw her innocence. She was just a girl caught in the web of Gideon's lies, much like I had been. I found myself questioning if revenge was truly what I wanted. Flashbacks flooded my mind. I remembered the early days with Gideon, his laughter, the way he would pull me close and whisper sweet things in my ear. "You're my everything, Eloise," he would say. Those words felt like they belonged to another life, a life that now felt tainted. The love I once felt was overshadowed by betrayal. One night, I found myself staring at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. She was angry, hurt, and lost. Yet, as I studied her, I also saw a flicker of strength. "I won't be a victim," I whispered to myself. "I will take control." But the more I learned about Gideon's secrets, the more complicated everything became. I stumbled upon a message on his phone, an exchange between him and Lila that revealed just how deep his deception ran. "You make me feel alive," Lila texted, and Gideon's reply was a simple, "I feel the same." Suddenly, I felt a wave of empathy for Lila. She had loved him with an open heart, not knowing the truth. I thought of all the moments when I had felt cherished, and it stung to realize that those moments might have been just as hollow for her. Is he really the monster here? I pondered. Perhaps I had failed to see my own faults in the relationship too. The internal conflict raged within me. Was I truly becoming the villain in this story of revenge? Or was I just a woman trying to reclaim her voice? As I navigated these emotions, I understood that revenge could easily consume me. Perhaps I needed to step back and rethink my approach. Maybe the answer lay not in destruction, but in understanding. As I tried to untangle my feelings, I felt the weight of my choices hanging over me. Revenge was a path I could take, but at what cost? I was beginning to realize that moving forward might mean letting go of the anger that had driven me thus far. As I stood in front of the mirror, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on my chest. My heart raced, a mix of cold determination and lingering affection for Gideon. I had planned every detail of this confrontation, but now that it was here, I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. Would I find the strength to face him? I took a deep breath, reminding myself of everything that had led me to this point. The text messages, the betrayal, and the shattered trust. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I had to be strong. As I arrived at our favorite cafe, a place that now felt tainted with memories, I spotted Gideon sitting at a table, his back turned to me. He looked so relaxed, unaware of the storm brewing behind me. I felt a surge of anger. How could he be so calm after everything? I walked up to him, my footsteps echoing in my mind. "Gideon," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He turned around and, for a moment, surprise flickered in his eyes. "Eloise, is everything okay?" I forced a smile, but inside, I was anything but okay. "We need to talk." His expression shifted, and I could see a hint of worry. "Sure, what's on your mind?" I sat down across from him, feeling the tension build. "I know about Lila." His face went pale, and I could tell he was scrambling for words. "What do you mean?" I leaned in closer, my voice low but firm. "I saw the messages on your phone, Gideon. I know what you've been doing." He looked down, his hands trembling slightly. "Eloise, I can explain. It's not what you think." I felt a rush of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of control. "Then explain, because right now it feels like you've destroyed everything we built together." He looked up at me, his eyes reflecting a mix of fear and regret. "I never wanted to hurt you. I made a mistake. I was confused." "Confused?" I scoffed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. "You think confusion justifies betrayal? All those moments we shared, did they mean nothing to you?" His gaze dropped again, shame washing over his features. "They meant everything. I cut him off, my voice rising. "You just what? Thought you could have it all? That I wouldn't find out? You've shattered my trust, Gideon." The silence that followed was heavy. I could see him wrestling with his own demons, and a part of me felt sorry for him. "Eloise, I'm scared of losing you." "Scared?" I echoed, my heart aching at his vulnerability. "You had me, Gideon. You had everything, and you threw it all away for a moment of weakness." He looked at me and I could see the pain in his eyes. "I wish I could take it back. I wish I had never met Lila." I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "But you did meet her, and now we're here. What do we do now?" He reached across the table, his hand hovering over mine, but I pulled away. "Don't. You've already reached out to another woman while I was here, trusting you. I need to know if you can be honest with me now." Gideon's face fell, and I could see the realization hit him. "I know I messed up, but I want to fix this. I want to fight for us." My heart wavered, but I couldn't let my emotions take control. "Fixing this won't be easy. You can't just say you're sorry and expect me to forget. I need time." "I'll do anything," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "Just don't walk away." As I looked at him, I realized the truth of our situation. It wasn't just about revenge or betrayal. It was about healing. Maybe the real victory isn't in destroying you, Gideon. Maybe it's in finding a way to heal from this. The silence stretched between us, filled with unspoken words and the weight of our shared history. I could see the cracks in his facade, just as I felt the cracks in my own heart. In that moment, I understood that healing would take time, but it was a step I was willing to take, even if it meant facing the pain head-on. And as I left the cafe, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I was no longer just a victim of betrayal. I was ready to reclaim my story, one step at a time. The air felt different after my confrontation with Gideon. The weight of the truth hung around me, heavy yet oddly freeing. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the mess of my life strewn across the room. The shattered pieces of my heart were still sharp, yet I could feel a shift within me. I was tired of being a victim of someone else's choices. It was time to reclaim my identity. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that healing was not a straight path, but a winding road filled with ups and downs. As the sun peeked through my curtains, casting a warm glow on my skin, I decided to take the first step. I grabbed my phone and hesitated for a moment before typing Lila's number. "Hey, Lila, it's Eloise," I said when she picked up, my voice wavering slightly. "I know we've had our differences, but I think we need to talk." "Eloise? I didn't expect to hear from you," she replied, her tone cautious. I could sense her uncertainty, and I understood it all too well. We were both caught in the web of Gideon's lies. "I know it's strange, but I think we can help each other," I continued. "Can we meet?" After a brief pause, she agreed. "Okay, let's meet at the cafe on Maple Street. I'll be there in an hour." As I got ready, I felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. I was stepping into uncharted territory, but I was determined to forge a new connection. When I arrived at the cafe, I saw Lila sitting at a table by the window, her eyes scanning the room. As I approached, she looked up, her expression a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Thanks for coming." "Of course, I just wasn't sure what to expect." She fiddled with the edge of her napkin, her gaze avoiding mine. "I know this is all very complicated," I began, trying to find the right words. "But I think we both know how it feels to be hurt by the same person." Her eyes widened slightly. "You're right. I feel lost. I thought I had something real with Gideon." I nodded, understanding her pain all too well. "Me too. He made me believe in a perfect life, but now I see things differently." "What do you mean?" Lila asked, leaning in, her interest piqued. "I thought revenge would make me feel better, but I realize that it won't heal my heart," I said, my voice steady. "I want to focus on healing, on rediscovering who I am. I believe we can support each other through this." Lila's expression softened. "I want that too. I've been so angry, but I don't want to stay stuck in that place." We talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter, finding unexpected comfort in our shared experiences. The more we opened up, the more I felt the weight of betrayal lift from my shoulders. Lila was not just an enemy, she was a fellow survivor. "Do you think we'll ever get over him?" she asked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. "Yes," I said, a smile creeping onto my face. "We will. It might take time, but we are stronger than we think." As we wrapped up our meeting, I felt a sense of hope blooming within me. I had started to build a new bond, one that was rooted in understanding rather than hatred. Later that evening, I stood before the broken mirror in my room, contemplating my reflection. The crack still stared back at me, but this time, I saw something different. I saw strength and resilience, a woman who was ready to embrace new beginnings. "I am not defined by my past," I whispered to myself, a smile spreading across my face. "I am ready to heal." The journey ahead would be challenging, but I was no longer afraid. I was ready to take control of my own narrative, and I knew that healing was the first step toward reclaiming my power. Share this story if you believe that healing and friendship can emerge from the most painful experiences. Leave a comment about a time when an unexpected connection changed your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.